I'd like to call the order of the Pleasant Grove City Council meeting this evening and on September the 15th, 2020. We have all 5 council members with us tonight, and I'm Mayor Fugel, and I welcome all of you who have joined us from the public that are in our audience and those who have joined us electronically. We welcome you and also the staff that have joined us to be part of this evening and our directors, so welcome. We'll start out with having our Pledge of Allegiance, and our council member Todd Williams will give us that, after which opening remarks will be given by Tyler Wilkins. And we'll go at that point. Todd?
Please stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear kind Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with gratitude in our hearts for the protection that we've received and for this wonderful community that we live in, and grateful for our first responders and for the many hours that they put in our behalf. We're grateful for city staff and city officials who help during these times, and grateful for a community that looks to help each other and to be in Pleasant Grove. We're grateful for the opportunity to meet this evening, and please bless it. We'll be able to be civil in our conversations and come up with ways to better the city. And we love thee, and we ask and pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thanks, Todd and Tyler. We'll now go to item 4, approval of tonight's meeting agenda, and we have one continuance. Is it 10E? Is that correct?
I
Scott?
believe so. We also need to add an executive session this evening on a legal matter.
So with that, 2 items, changes in our agenda this night, I'd like to have a motion.
Mayor, make a motion that we approve tonight's agenda with those changes that were just mentioned.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Williams. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We'll now move on to our open session this evening and invite any who would like to come forward and address the council at this time. We see no one coming forward, so we will now close our open session and move on to item number 6, our consent items this evening. That we have consent item 6A, City Council minutes of our August 18th, 2020 meeting. B, consider for approval change order number 1 and pay request number 2 for Geneva Rock Products for the PG 13 West Improvement Project. And C, consider for approval pay request 2 for Johnson & Phillips for the 150 North Street Waterline Project. And D, to consider for approval approval reports for September 3rd and 10th, 2020. So with that, I asked no questions on the consent items, a motion for your approval.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Bullock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We do not have any board, commissioner, committee appointments or presentations. We had those earlier this evening in our work session. And we'll now move to item number 9, our one public hearing this evening, and we'll have is 9A, public hearing to consider for adoption resolution 2020-054, adjusting and amending revenues and expenditures of the 2020-2021 fiscal year budget. Director Roy.
Just doing some housekeeping. It's been 2 meetings ago that we talked about the capital improvement projects, And then we talked about the additional projects for the CARE tax. And so I had just attached a Schedule A and B to distinguish those. So we just need to make sure that we have the budget authority to spend and do those projects.
Any questions for the director? If not, we will now open up our public hearing and invite anybody to come forward and that would like to address the council on our adoption of our fiscal year budget. I see no one approaching. We'll now close our public hearing and bring it back up to the council for any further discussion or a motion.
I'd make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-054, adjusting and amending the revenues and expenditures of the 2021 fiscal year budget.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bullock. Do I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilmember Williams. This will be a roll call vote, and we'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our action items ready for vote this evening, and we'll go to 10A, to consider for adoption Resolution 2020-055, approving an honorary street name for the portion of 600 North and 1300 West to 1500 West as SSG Hartsfield Way, authorizing the addition of the honorary name for 3 street signs in the area and providing for an effective date. General Counsel.
Mayor and council, if you'll recall, last city council session, we had a request from a resident to take advantage of our process for petitioning to add honorary street names to street designations in our city. Mr. Adams presented a request to the council to rename this portion of 6th North between 1300 West and 1500 West, Staff Sergeant Henscheid Way. And the council was amenable to that request, and so this resolution is the formal action that the council needs to take to authorize the city to add that designation to the street signs. Sergeant Henscheid served honorably in our military service, and he meets the criteria for the request. So this is the last step to the request process. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Is the family
No, but,
here this evening?
but the Adams are here.
So-
Jim Adams has been.
Okay. So with that, thank you, and we'll now ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2020-055, approving an honorary street name for the portion of 600 North from 1300 West to 1500 West as SSG Henscheid Way, and authorizing the addition to the honorary name to the 3 street signs in the area and providing for an effective date.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Williams, a second by Councilmember Jensen. This will be a roll call vote again, and we'll start with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to,
Mayor, can I
Yes.
just make one
yes, go
comment?
ahead.
This is done, and we're honoring, our military here, but this wouldn't have happened without the Adams.
Amen.
And this took a little bit of finagling and communication, and want to recognize the Adams for their passion and for their willingness and diligence ensuring that this got done. So thank you.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
very much.
See, what I love about this is someone who puts their time and energy into something positive,
Right.
and then this is what comes out of it.
Exactly.
And so there's a lot of things we can choose to do with our time, and I think this is awesome that you chose to do this, so.
Okay, we'll now move on to 10B, to consider for awarding Granite Construction Companies the 700 South Overlay Project bid in the amount of $202,296 and authorize the mayor to sign the notice of award and authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed in agreement upon receipt of the approval of the final contract documents. Did we lose Marty?
Yeah, Denise, could you get him? Oh, wait, not that Denise.
It's like our meeting just comes to a halt when Marty walks.
I know.
Everything on here says he's-
Our world revolves around Marty.
I'm telling you, this is true.
Sorry, talking out.
It's on the
Right.
granite bid,
Okay.
700 South.
700 South, great. As you know, maybe you don't know, we had as part of our conditional use permit for the ACE Recycling Center, we required them to upgrade the road to be able to accommodate the additional truck traffic on that road. We designed it originally when we reconstructed it a few years ago for a certain truck volume. And as we looked into the additional volumes that would be added, we wanted to make sure that we weren't diminishing the value that we had already put into that road. And so we required, as part of their conditional use permit, that there was a payment made for $280,000 that would cover the cost of increasing or doing an overlay on the road by 1.5 inches of asphalt, which is what all of our studies showed they needed to do to get the same rating for the class of road and the life out of the road. So this project, we bid this out. It's an overlay of 700 South from Geneva Road to PG Boulevard. You'll go out there and you'll look at that and you'll say, why do we need to overlay that? Because it's a beautiful road, but the reality is we want to make sure it stays beautiful and that we keep the value that we've put into that road into the future as these additional truck traffic, the garbage trucks that we'll be seeing going from that. Be assured that we didn't, in that agreement, we don't allow them to bring their large traffic loads out of there, so their big trucks that they're hauling to the landfills, those all have to turn right and go up to Geneva Road and take North County Boulevard to the freeway. We don't allow them to turn left there, just because that would have further impacts on that road. But trash trucks, just the normal pickup trucks that they have, all of those can come down 700 South, and that's what this is for. So the bids actually came back really well. In this, we had 5 bidders. The average bid was $314,000. The low bid was $302,000.
Wow.
We had 3 bidders within $8,000 on this big of a project. So great bids, and we feel comfortable that this is where it needed to be. This is something we wanted to try to get done since they're in operation now, and so that will happen here before the end of October. So.
Any other questions? And that includes restriping, right?
Yes, yep, striping, and then eventually there will be a seal coat put on the top of that as well to further prevent that. So that was all included in that cost, so.
So,
We had already planned for a seal coat on what we had done because we'd reconstructed that, but now we held off on that, and we'll do that now that we get once we get the overlay on.
so how thick is the overlay?
The overlay is 1.5 inches thick, additional to what the 4-inch section that we already have there.
Okay,
So that'll make it a total thickness of 5.5 inches on the asphalt.
So you just need to finish from Geneva Road to State Street.
Yep, that's the section that they have impact to.
Yeah.
Sorry, not State Street, PG Boulevard, right? That's the other, oh, sorry, you're saying that that's the other portion that needs to
Yes,
be done
it
eventually
needs to
because
be
it's in
done.
such poor shape. Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
A lot of traffic on that road.
There
Yes.
is.
so, anything else for Marty?
No, well done.
Okay, that, ask for a motion.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we award Granite Construction Companies the 700 South Project overlay project as written before, as read before by the mayor.
Okay, I have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Councilmember Bullock. And this is not a roll call vote, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Now we'll move on to 10C. Consider for awarding Instafoam Technology LLC, the fiscal year 2019-20 sewer rehab project bid with base bid A and additive alternates 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the amount of $279,047, and authorize the mayor to sign a notice to proceed, and authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed in agreement upon receipt of the approval of the final contract documents. Director.
This item is for our typical, every year we do some lining of our sewer system. This year, last year we did some lining that was done by UV ray. And that was more for pipes that have constant water flows in them or have infiltration flows coming into them. This year that we decided to do a project that was more it's a fold and form technology where you pull it in and heat it up with steam and it cures it. This year the project came in great. We had 4 bid additive alternates that we added there so that we could make sure that we used all the budget that was available that we could, but didn't go over that. And as you can see, we're recommending the award of all the bids, all of the additive alternates with the bid, as we were able to get a great price to get all of this done this year. So we recommend that to you.
Any other questions for the director? I don't see any other director.
I was handing that off. How far along are we, Marty?
How far what?
In this process, is there a goal, and how far along are we here?
I think we have a great process established, and I actually will be talking with Scott about coming back. We recently kind of did an overall evaluation of our system that I'd like to kind of show, but the system as a whole is operating very well. As we televise throughout the city, we go through and every Tim Sewer does that for us, and they give us a report. Every 3 months, we get a book of all of the pipes that have been cleaned and those that have been televised. In that book, they indicate whether there's an issue with that pipe that they've televised, whether that's a root intrusion, whether there's infiltration, what those issues are. And then we go through and say, okay, this is a great pipe that we need to get lined. That process has happened for before I came, that was happening. And we're continuing to do that. We feel like our sewer system is actually in really good shape, and we don't have too many issues there, and are continuing to proceed forward with that. It's really, there's not a lot of intrusion when we do these projects because they're just at the manhole, they pull everything in, and so there's a little bit of traffic issues, but there's not a big hole in the ground, those types of things. So we feel like it's a great way to get these pipes rehabilitated, and then hopefully that lasts for 50 to 100 years. These fold-in form technologies are long-term solutions to our problem. They stop all the infiltrations and stop the issues with the pipe as far as giving enough structural integrity to them that they don't fall apart. So we have a great program going, Eric, that I think we are in great shape with our sewer system. So.
Okay, with that, I asked a motion on item 10C for awarding this contract. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to award
In situ form?
In situ form Technologies LLC, the fiscal year 2019 to 2020 sewer rehab project bid with base bid A and additive alternatives 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the amount of $279,047, and authorize the mayor to sign a notice of award and authorize the mayor to sign the notice to proceed, and the agreement upon receipt and approval of the final contract documents.
I have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Jensen. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to 10D. Consider for adoption Resolution 2020-056, authorizing the mayor to execute a reimbursement agreement with Denny Farnsworth for the construction of certain storm drain improvements of the North Union Ditch in the area of 200 South and 900 East, Pleasant Grove, Utah County, Utah, and providing for an effective date. Director.
We've been working on an agreement for how to deal with a section of the North Union / Gardner Ditch for a number of months with a developer. We dealt with this project
On the vicinity plan, you'll probably remember a little bit more. And it's right next to the high school on Second South, just up from the high school a little bit east. We dealt with the Adams Acres development. There was a Plat A and a Plat B. And the Plat A was, if you remember, the street that we approved to go up through between Second South and First South. This other Plat B was another portion that included the development of this piece of the property, this triangular piece, and then another lot here on Second South. With that, we have the North Union Gardner ditch that runs through here. It's a V-notch concrete ditch, V-channel, or actually trapezoidal channel. But the idea was that when they came in that we needed to get that piped. And part of the piping of that, the capacity of that was fairly substantial. This is one of our main irrigation pipes. It's owned by Pleasant Grove Irrigation Company. But we share use in that as our storm drain system. Stormwater flows down Second South. There's also other locations south of here that collect there at Valley View Elementary and further south there on Loader, all kind of tie into that. And so we also have a master plan that shows there's a certain capacity needed across that piece. And so we worked with the developer to, one of two things, we worked with them to make sure that because of the type of pipe that's now required in backyards, it has to be a fused pipe, solid joint. It doesn't make sense to just get it to here and then have this development of this property tie in there, fuse it there, and extend it over to Anderson Park, whereas there's a future planned detention facility in that park in coordination with the park. So in short, the agreement was that the developer here would take the pipe from this location here on Second South over to Anderson Park, tie it back into that existing ditch that's open through Anderson Park, if you've ever been through there. So it'll be piped now across this property that's now for development. The property owner here is also in this agreement with the developer, and they're extending it all the way across, and then the city has to pay the upsize cost. So this reimbursement is between us and FCI Companies LLC with Denny Farnworth, and that agreement is essentially we're paying the difference in cost between a 24-inch HDPE pipe to a 36-inch pipe, which is what we need for our future needs. So right now, we anticipated that the ditch capacity would be about a 24-inch pipe. And so per our ordinances, we have to pay for the upsize in that cost to be able to accommodate future flows. And that's what we're doing here. So the agreement that you have before you and the cost of the $40,300 is only the portion that increases that pipe from a 24 to a 36. So that's our recommendation, is that we go ahead and do that, knowing that this was coming. That's already a budget item that we have in this year's budget to be able to accommodate those costs. That was worked at back in July. So.
Okay, any other questions for the director?
No.
If not, I'd ask for a motion on resolution number 2020-056.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-056 as read previously.
We have a motion by Councilmember Anderson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Lamone. This will be a roll call vote. We'll start out with Councilmember Anderson,
Yes.
Councilmember Bullock,
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen,
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone,
Yes.
and Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
That finishes all our action items this evening, with 10E being continued to another meeting. And we'll now finish with our discussion items from our directors. Director Wilkins, would you like to come up and tell us all the good things that are happening at the rec center? And you can tell us about the bad, too.
We know all the bad.
Tell us how you're meeting all,
Yeah, we know all the bad, so you better
yeah,
be
tell us
honest
how
with
you're
us.
meeting all the social distancing standards.
We are doing our best, Mayor. I'm just really grateful for my staff. Everything started this week, and they really had to think through social distancing and COVID, everything to make it all happen. And so we started preschool, we started babysitting classes, we've started gymnastics, flag football starts tonight, Brent, so you're gonna have some lights on over there.
Love it,
Yeah,
love it.
so usually we've been able to play just on Tuesdays, but because of COVID, we separated it over to 3 nights so we can spread out the fields and things like that. And so it'll be 3 nights of fun for you.
Great.
But-
Sounds like more injury time.
yeah.
You can do it 7 if you'd like.
Okay, we'll take that challenge. But yeah, just everything's going. My staff's in full blow, just doing a great job. I'm really grateful for each of them. And yeah, we're seeing fitness numbers come back up with adding daycare. You should have seen the seniors come in. It was like Disneyland for them when they were coming back into the facility. They were cheering and all excited.
Oh,
So
really?
it was a good sight to see. So yeah.
Great.
That's all the good, Mayor. That's what I got.
So tell me where you're utilized, what fields do you utilize for the youth soccer program?
Youth soccer, we play our younger guys at Pleasant Grove Junior High. They spread out over there, and then we use the big field west of Discovery Park for the older group, 5th through 9th grade. So,
That's taking care of all of our programs then.
yeah.
Yeah.
So Tyler, right now, is it business as usual of programs for the fall? Like if you had to cut any or, I mean, obviously you're modifying.
The only thing
them.
that got cut was not our program necessarily, it was wrestling. The high school chose not to do that. They just told us not to take registration as of right now. So,
Okay.
but that's the only.
But other than that, fall sports moving forward, both adult and youth.
Yes.
Okay.
Tyler, are you tight with those current fields? Could you always use more room, or you're good to go?
This isn't a good year to judge because we're
Yeah,
down in
typical year.
registration. But soccer, there's lots of options for soccer now. We've seen with Northern Utah County and just other groups coming up, so that there's a lot more options for soccer right now. And so we would love to have our own fields and not use the junior high because we have to obviously
them.
rent those, but so to have our own soccer fields would be tremendous. And when I'm over at Art Dye, I just kind of salivate because they're spread out everywhere. And could,
We need to work on that.
Great.
Well, and the junior high isn't even
love
actual
Art
real
Dye.
soccer
That is
fields.
just a beauty.
no,
Like
this
they're
time,
not-
like I told you guys, for the first time this year, we actually bought real soccer goals to have out there. So it would
We
be
have one soccer field, but it's not regulation size, correct, over on the west side of
Right.
Discovery?
yeah, kind of have to adjust. So to have open spaces for lots of fields for flag football, for all of our
It'd be
things,
multi-use.
soccer.
Economic development equals soccer fields.
Yeah. So
We're working on it.
we look forward to that day.
Me too.
So
Us too.
yeah.
We're working on it.
Thank you
Yep.
so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler.
Sherry, you want to come forward and tell us about the library? I mean, that's a quiet place over there, and I don't know if we,
Any attempted murders?
I guess if it burned,
Only in all of the
down, we'd have
books.
something else.
Yeah, we apologize in staff meeting for the 600 group me's that went out over the last 10 days.
Yeah, we
Between
could
the
probably.
boil order and the fire, poor Sherry has to read all 600 of them.
Well,
Yeah, I
it's
did.
like a
Anything has to do with the
novel.
library in there.
I was at Fish Lake over the weekend and came back into cell service. And I kept scrolling, trying to get to the beginning of that conversation. I was going to use my library storytelling skills and make up some machine
Haunted
guns
story, yeah.
toting
Like
person.
peaceful. Yeah, we like peace.
But Todd stole that. No machine guns or crazy people driving cars over our property today. We're good. We're doing fine. Eventually, we're gonna get a marquee, right?
Eventually.
We're working on it.
Yeah. No, everything's good, and we are working on adding more hours. We had reduced it, and we're working on schedules to add some more back and put more of the furniture back, and because people have been really good about wearing masks, so we feel pretty safe doing that. So hopefully before long we'll be back to normal.
Thank you, Sherry.
Yeah,
Thanks.
it's coming.
Thank you.
It's coming.
Oh, Sherry, we've got a couple people new on the library board. Does that need to, do we want to introduce them at some point, or just a thought?
Sure.
Well, I've reached out to the different boards and commissions to have them come in and give you a report. And the last email I sent was probably about a month ago, and I haven't followed up, but nobody responded initially, so I just need to send another one. But
All right.
we need to get them all in here so that they can do that.
So they can see us and we can see them and know
Yeah,
who they
the
are.
Historic Commission came in, if you remember that, and we were
Yep.
gonna have library and arts and beautification come in and do the same thing.
Well, when we have new board members, do we usually bring them in?
Yeah, we do.
So
Well,
that'd be-
yeah, because they usually come in when they're appointed.
Yeah, but that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying.
The libraries works a little differently, so.
Oh, they're not
we
appointed
don't
by
know.
mayor and council?
No.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
So
all right.
maybe they,
Well, we still have them come in, right?
But yes, we can still have
Whatever.
them come in, of course.
let's create some hazing process for them, should we do that?
Well, one happens to be his wife, which I
Oh,
think
okay,
is
well,
why he
maybe
wants a
not.
hazing process.
I'll take care of that one.
When you said, "Oh, Sherry."
Daniel, do you want to come forward, Director? And,
Song.
you know, this is probably the first time we haven't had you as one of our star witnesses here this evening.
Does he look like a cowboy?
He does.
I walk like one too. They say like soccer
with
players
his-
walk like cowboys too.
With the bandana, it works.
I forgot the name of this business. Give me 1 second. The fish business.
Make-
Thank you very much. I just had, sometimes I write things on my hands because I forget things, so I just got right here.
You just
but I
had to
didn't
give
write
us
this
some
down.
keywords, some fish.
That's, we're gonna play charades here. Captain D's, I don't know if you guys remember the site where Captain D's was gonna be. So it looks like Captain D's is not gonna come to the city anymore. But yesterday afternoon, I just got an application on the same site, for Dutch Bros coffee shop. It's the coffee shop that is by BYU, the Dutch Bros.
Dutch Brothers.
Dutch Brothers. Pretty popular, Dutch
Yeah.
Brothers, yeah.
Do they serve fish? Just kidding.
Fish and coffee, fish and chips and coffee.
Take that as a,
Oh, my
take
God.
that as a no.
So I mean, it's good news. I mean, if something falls up, but if something merely picks up, that's great. So
Yes.
these guys are really excited about picking up the place, and they so this is just something new that I'm gonna add to the rap sheet. Other than that, we're still the same. We're busy. Good news is this week we'll we have our finalists to pick our code enforcement officer. We have a couple of people with many years of experience that I think they're gonna land on their feet and help us a lot on that.
And so you've interviewed or not? You said you are this week.
We interview already. We're just going to do the final interviews. We have 3 people that Scott and Tina are going to be with us for those interviews, for the final ones.
Okay.
I think,
Good.
like I said, we had 28 applicants, then we went to 7, 8, and then now we have 3. So
Wow.
we're
Okay.
confident what we're going to get.
We're ready for that ride along, Scott.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Put us in
And-
the bus.
We're gonna put us in a bus.
So, yeah,
I
that's
got
what
a
I have.
15-passenger van, ready to go.
I went to 3 events this last week, all separate, and different people. At every one I was asked about. I understand you're getting a code enforcer. And second question was, where do we tell them? Where do we send the information? I told them
Community development, no?
community development or Scott, either
Yeah.
one.
So, but
I'll take it, we'll get where it is.
Yes.
Well, is there someone specific that you would like us to?
community development.
Well, we
But
talked
is there
about
someone
adding a,
specific?
I think we're just going to add them to the group me.
Amen.
Well, no,
Daniel, I
so
think we
once the
added about
person
adding a thing
is-
to the website,
Oh,
to
for
your
sure.
website. and-
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're preparing everything, so when that person comes in, like we need to create that software for him, or her, whoever we hire, for that person to go and keep reports and stuff like that. We already have the software ready. Like I say, it's going to be the same framework that we have for the building permit, so they can talk to each other on business licensing, hopefully eventually, zoning. Yeah, I mean, what we're doing right now, I'm getting phone calls right now. I get about 3 to 4 a day
And what we do, people in the front counter, do we have an Excel sheet where we put everything, the address and the issue, and if we can solve it, if you need something immediately, then I send one of my building inspectors, or I've been there. But if something that can hold a little bit, then we just like having them ready right there. So I think it's gonna be a good fit. That's what I have, Mayor.
It's great, thank you.
Thank
Anything
you.
else, Dan? Thanks, Daniel.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Marty?
Let's be grateful Marty's vertical.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
Made it through the weekend. Had to catch up on a lot of yard work that had missed out on the previous weekend. So,
I can't believe that you didn't inform Parks.
yeah, come on over. We've got
no,
things
you
to
should
do.
have informed the council.
Yeah.
We would have been up there.
Yes, we would have been up there.
Absolutely would have.
Well, you shouldn't have said that. I just got started. So,
I'm
no,
texting Mary right now.
we're moving. We're getting things moving. So, last week was fun, to say the least. We had a lot of people out of town. That made it even just a little bit more fun. They were gone before the call came in, really, on Saturday morning, as far as what needed to happen. But we had some great people step up to deal with this issue. Really, there were kind of 4 guys on the ground that were just trying to deal with all the things. You have to understand as well that sometimes there wasn't a lot of digging, there's not a lot of repair. It was just a matter of trying to figure out and blow out the system and trying to figure out exactly how to best address the situation and get things back in service. A lot of time spent on the phone with the state, a lot of meetings trying to get them to see the overall picture of the system, which was a challenge. It always is. Just when you're not familiar with it, it's really hard to see that picture. And I think we got to a point where we had a better understanding of what was going on. I don't know that there's a smoking gun of this was what was causing it. We thought there was maybe some cross-contamination, some backflow issues, potentially cross connections, but we totally isolated a number of streets and felt like that was not an issue, that we don't have something flowing in on those streets. We were able to totally shut off those streets and really disconnect all of the services and just make sure that there was nothing coming back in. It would be really odd if there was. I guess the state kept saying, well, maybe there's a nighttime flow happening, but we couldn't picture that one either. We went through all the scenarios of how that could happen, but it's not something that we feel is happening. I guess in short, after we worked through everything and got everything cleaned out on that first time, one of the concerns that they have is that we just need to make sure that we do a really good cleaning of the system. We feel like that when we cleaned it on Saturday, that first initial cleaning, we put in a bunch of chlorine. Essentially, you shock the system. You try to get all of the bacteria that may be in the system and make sure that it's gone through flushing and chlorinating. And we did that extensively, but probably not to the far extent of what we need to do. Like in a construction setting, when you put in a new pipe, there's dirt, there's everything in those pipes. And you go through initially, you flush them out, you chlorinate them, you let them sit usually for 24 hours, you flush some more, and then you take a test. And you have to do that twice before we put any line into service. And that's similar to what we were doing here as well, as far as the process in doing that. And the state feels like that we needed to shock it at a little bit higher shock residual with our chlorine. And so we had, in their kind of response to all of this, they've asked that we do that before Friday, which tomorrow we're planning, and we've given notice to all those 9 residents again. Wow. We'll be back on their street for probably at least half the day. Water shut down, every meter taken out, water truck there with taking up a very, very high chlorine residual, probably in the 1 to 200. Normally, you're sitting at about a 1 parts per million as far as what you like to see in your system. So we'll be taking it up to 100 to 200 parts per million. We'll let that sit for 2, 3, 4 hours, which we feel like will be a very good shock to that. And if there is anything remaining in there, then it would definitely clean that out. The reason we're doing that is because we did have some low chlorine residuals that were in in the area at that time. And since that time, we do have a lot higher residuals. We were in about the 0.5 parts per million. I know none of this will probably make sense. We can get into the engineering things of that if you'd like. But normally systems, they like to see in that 0.3 to 0.5 range. That's kind of non-detectable. It's there. It's providing you the protection that you want to have in your system to make sure you don't get bacteria and things like that that can cause harm. But at the same time, it's also not that noticeable. We've did increase the chlorine into the system slightly when we had this issue on Saturday, and have seen those residuals now being stabilized right around that 0.3 mark, which means that we are continuing to contain any issues that may be there. But we want to make sure that that street specifically where we've had those bad results on those tests is completely clean and not going to cause a problem if those residuals drop. Let's say our chlorinator goes out or something else goes out, there is a chance that those, if there was some sort of a bacteria in there, that it could reemerge, and we want to just make sure that that's not even a potential. So working with the state, we will have some additional testing that will start on Monday. They'll have a guy down here kind of doing a level 2 assessment, which will essentially require us to go through all of the system, especially everything coordinated with that. Not too concerned about that, pretty standard procedures, and feel like we can be able to give them all the information that they're looking for there. We do have the Wade Springs that we did kick out for a time. When we first took our first test there, we came back with a coliform positive test, not E. coli, but coliform. As we got up there into those spring box, there was a little bit of roots that had grown down into the spring box, and we've removed those, chlorinated. The first test we took, we were also concerned about whether or not it was a good test. Just understand that it's really easy to get a positive coliform test. You can do that by accidentally breathing the wrong direction when you're taking these tests. It's really, really important that you go through certain procedures to do that. And so the first test came back coliform positive on the spring, and that's why we kicked it out, as you saw, and we had some damages to the Valley Vista trails up there. But the next 2 tests have both come back clean. The water is still not put back into the system. The state has requested that we have 5 tests come back clean before we reinsert that into the system, which will be fine. It's not an issue. We were able to have that happen by noon on Friday. We were able to get that water back out of the Valley Vista Trail system and put it back into Grove Creek, which won't cause any problems at all with the Grove Creek drainage. So anyways, that's kind of how we're moving forward. We feel like we really were blessed in a lot of ways, even though it was kind of a pain to deal with all of this. The reality was that every test that we did, and I believe we took over 50 tests subsequent to verify that there was not coliform or E. coli in any of them, and all of those tests, except on that one street, came back negative, which is very lucky. This is a dead-end street.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly the source. We feel like maybe something got into there, and because of some low chlorine residuals, it was able to proliferate in that one pipe and therefore cause the issue. But because the water flow in that street is one direction, because it's a dead-end line and people are taking their water as they use it, that prevented it from being pushed back into the system and potentially contaminating other of our samples that we had taken. And so we really feel like it was a very isolated location in all of our evaluation of how that happened. And so we were lucky that way. If it was in the middle of town and water could flow all directions, we would be talking a different story as far as what we potentially need to do. But I think the state kind of at the end, as all of the results showed, it was very isolated to that one street. And now we just need to make sure that everything is kept clean with our residuals and making sure that there isn't another potential source to come into the system. So any specific questions that you want to ask?
Yeah. How do you flush the accelerated levels of chlorine? How do you flush those out of the system?
We find the best piece of grass that we want to kill.
Okay.
And we throw it there. No.
Okay.
We actually have to pump it back into a truck, and then it has to be distributed on ground where it can dissipate. So,
Okay.
yeah, we can't just push it into the storm drain system or especially not the sewer system, because that'd probably kill all the bugs down at the sewer treatment plant.
Yeah.
So we actually will pump everything in at the higher shocking rate, and then we will pump it or push it back into the truck that we're pumping out of, and then we'll dispose of that properly, but we won't.
Do you
be
actually
putting it-
pump it in to the system? Do you pump it in a truck, from a truck?
So
Or-
we will in this situation.
Okay.
Because what we'll do is we'll get, we've got a 4,000 gallon truck lined up. We'll fill it about half full. We'll put in the treatment to get it up to the 100 parts per million.
Wow.
We know how many gallons the pipe is because we know the length and the diameter. So we'll push it in for, it's about 1,000 gallons of water is all. We'll push that in and we'll let it sit, and then we'll push that back out into the truck just to make sure that we don't have any issues with sending some very high chlorine water down the systems.
Okay.
Wow. Very good.
So,
Any other questions for Marty?
No, just wonderful job. Thank you.
it was-
By the
it
way,
was a fun
very,
week.
very, very, very grateful that you're our guy.
Thank you.
So how's
We-
1300 West coming?
So 1300 West, I missed my meeting last week. We got a meeting.
Boy, that was
The
a
good
jump.
thing is, Mayor,
Segway.
I got a call from Larry Myler yesterday. He stopped in and I called him last night on my way home. And we have worked out the issues with the state and the right of way. Right next to State Street, the state purchased the corner property from Larry Myler. And they've worked out some negotiations to where we can get the power pole relocated with Rocky Mountain Power. That's kind of what the big holdup has been, is that we've got to get that big power pole out of the way. And now that's all under agreement and moving forward.
Rocky Mountain Power's busy.
They are tough to.
By the way, during the fire on the, and maybe Jake will know this, did the fire get any of the power poles?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, I didn't hear that last.
Pulling one up, one pole.
Okay,
We'll probably have to replace it, he said.
okay.
So that mayor is going well. We feel like we'll get 13th West, definitely the lower portion. I believe they're planning to do curb in the next week or so. Asphalt will come about the week after. So by the end of September, we should have the lower portion done. We're also working there in front of the Cambria, Pemberley developments. All of that has now started, and we're trying to get that redone. As I told you, as I reported a couple weeks ago, that was very thin asphalt, and we feel like we've got a good plan to resolve that issue as far as getting that done right, and to where our travel lanes are going to be very stable, and moving forward, we should be good on that area. So it was all falling apart in a few more years. We were constantly fixing potholes in that section, especially in front of Pemberley, and so we feel like we've got that resolved. So 13th West is going well and should be put back together here in the next month.
Where are we at with the secondary water filters?
Secondary water filters are going somewhat well. We have currently.
That doesn't sound encouraging, somewhat well.
Well, actually, it's going better than I expected. So
That's good.
we have been for the last week filtering the south turnout, which is right about Center Street. The 1100 North filters started working this week. So we've got 2 of the 3 working. We have one issue on the north one that we're hoping to resolve on Monday, and at that point, all 3 will be working. And hopefully we'll get a good couple weeks worth of service out of those to make sure that we've worked out the bugs, so that when we turn off the water October 1st, next spring, we'll have them all functioning and operational, but we'll have a couple weeks of good service out of them to make sure that they're functioning.
I thought the usual turn-off date is October 15th.
That is not the usual turn-off date.
I think we've had this discussion before, remember? I think you're right.
So
October 1st.
October 1st is the date that we start shutting down the system for our culinary water, our secondary water, not culinary, our secondary.
Let's not start rumors, Marty. And
Nobody will have
so
water for the winter.
it seems like this year I haven't had as many complaints about the secondary water. Was this just a better year for secondary water in general as far as what's coming through the pipes and everything?
Yes, there's a lot of things that are factoring into that. We've implemented in the last few years some great backups. Mainly, you'll hear that there's been a great difference up on the bench, up the highest zone. Part of that is because we honestly are not flowing any water from Battle Creek this year into that zone.
Why is that?
Because we had the big project where we had to put in all the filters. We also diverted all that water. And so it wasn't able to do that. So we pumped out of the Battle Creek zone all year to that upper zone.
So can we keep doing that?
We can, but I don't.
I honestly didn't receive any complaints last year. It was about one every 2 days. And from people.
So we honestly feel that that's not the best way to run the system. However, we do feel like we've now got the ability to run it properly. One of our biggest problems was we had so much water, so much dirty water coming in from the Battle Creek zone because our screen was so open that it would plug up the filters and then the water would not be filtered. And now we've put that really fine screen on the top, right? If you've walked up to Battle Creek Falls, you've seen the new screen structure. That's able to keep all of that material out of the system that before we were catching in our filters and trying to get it out of there, and the filters were just, it was just too much load to be able to actually filter it and get it through there. It would plug them up almost faster than we could keep them flushing. And so we feel like we've always got that option, and one of the things with Battle Creek we know is that we have very low flows in the month of really mid-May through June, and then it picks up in July. And I think we've now learned our system to where we can now function a little bit more efficiently. If we have very dirty, high load water, then we can go ahead and pump from our other systems, so where we're not putting that in there. So if we're having problems, then we know how to resolve it, where before we really didn't have a way to resolve it. We were just trying to make it work so people had water. But we've got a much better plan. I'm really excited for next year. I think that we've got an opportunity to kind of see how that all of this work that we've been doing this year is going to pay off, to where the problem, it's not that we can't pump, it's just the cost of pumping is very expensive. And so it's not that that's not a final option, but it's not something that with all of the infrastructure we have, if we can get that filtered out of there like we're planning, I think we'll be able to function a lot better this next year. I think you'll be very impressed next year with how that upper system works, even with the Battle Creek water.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
Okay.
Anything else for us?
Well, just an overall, it's not me doing all this work. Just having Greg out there with that 36 years of experience, have to understand that we consult together and we make things work. And then just Jason did an awesome job on all the testing. Just fun to just say, okay, go do this, and this. And, 30 minutes later, he's got all those results. I'm like, wow, that was fast. Good job. So we have great people working for us, and it's just great to work down there. So it's not me. It's kudos to all the guys as well that really helped put it all together and try to make it come together as fast as we could. So they worked hard. All of us worked hard that weekend specifically, and hope never to have to do that again. I was talking with Greg. He's 36 years in.
And
he's never had an E. coli positive except on one house where they had to deal with the house. And talking with the lab, they haven't seen an E. coli positive test in 12 years. And so it's just not a common thing to have that happen. We just got lucky this year that we're picked out in 2020 to be able to deal with it and go through that with the state. So we hope that never happens again, and we're working towards that end. So. But thank you again for all your help. Hopefully we gave you the answers you needed to help others feel comfortable with the situation, and we'll work to keep that out of our system going forward. So
It was awesome. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Marty.
thanks.
Move your bed out of your office. I haven't been in the office, but I've fallen asleep a few times.
Director Roy, thank you for your work on our budget and getting this straight. I know, hey,
Somebody's got to do it.
Yes. Crisis mode.
and she's just excited every morning to come in and work on that, So that's, but do you have anything else for us? Okay, Kathy, do you have anything?
Yes.
So there is one thing with the Kathy's fire. We'll call this the
Kathy's fire?
The Kathy fire. They couldn't get the hydrant turned on that was behind a fence back on the people's property because the bush had grown around there. And so some people were approaching me and saying, why have you got the fire hydrants shut off? And I says, they shouldn't be shut off. And that wasn't the case. It was because the hedge or whatever had grown up there. And finally, Robert was, you couldn't use a standard wrench to get it opened up. So it took a little, but they didn't run out of water. They had plenty of water on the trucks till they got that on there. But so Lehigh pulled up and they jumped out with their chainsaw and cut the bush down, and they got the water turned on to the
The hydrant?
to the hydrant.
Wow.
Trim your,
Trim the.
So it's
mess-
a little,
yeah.
so clean, we ought to make a thing there, what they can
It's
do.
a little code enforcing thing.
Yeah, code enforcement, or, keep the fire hydrants cleaned up and let the bushes
Yes,
grow into
that's
them.
Could be a
That's a
easy
great
newsletter.
reminder.
Easy newsletter item put out.
It's something I have to watch. I mean, I've got a fire hydrant on my property and I've got to watch it because dang bushes keep growing.
Well, and most people want a landscape around a hydrant so that you can't see it,
Yeah, they
so,
want them to disappear,
right?
so, but,
Unless you want it.
Artie?
We do have, and I believe it came out this spring, we do kind of yearly put that in
Yeah.
the newsletter, because we constantly are battling people that want to paint them or do landscaping right up against them and bury them almost above, up to the top of the nozzles and those types of things. And so it's a constant trying to keep people aware that we need to have full access to those 3 feet all the way around them and buried, unburied, so that we can actually get access and turn those things off when we need to in a fast manner, those types of things.
It's 3 feet, huh? Wow.
Well, and hallelujah, Robert, with his 10 years of experience, had his chainsaw ready.
He was, well, yeah, he was just right there, so anyway. Well, in fact, Kathy's the one that pointed out that they were gonna drag the hose up to the next block because they couldn't see that hydrant behind that fence.
Wow.
But you showed them where there's a hydrant right over there.
Kathy almost put the fire out herself with the
Yeah.
garden hose.
She had her 3/4 inch garden hose out there.
Let's give that woman more pressure.
She's got singed eyebrows, that's how hot it was, so anyway.
Well, so did you have any damage, Kathy?
Oh, yeah.
So your car's melted or what?
No, just the siding on the house.
Oh.
It's
Okay.
just the power meter kind of melted off, along with the solar panel meter and everything else on that side, so.
Wow.
And their camp trailer that they were restoring in the back.
No.
It's just stuff.
It just got a little sunburn on the one side. So anyway,
Yeah, that was my COVID camper.
It still is. 2020.
it smells like a
May
campfire
it go
in
down
there.
in flames. Oh, wait, it is.
Tina, do you have anything else for us?
Just to report that we filed our initial brief, appellate brief on the transportation utility fee this week. And so we'll wait for our time for a response, and I'll let you know when we get it.
Okay. Kyler?
2020.
We have a new intern who started from the high school, Claire, so she'll be working on,
You lost your intern?
Oh, he's on a mission now. She kind of grows up. Okay,
take that
lost
as a
my
yes.
intern. So we have a new one.
and she'll be working on a time capsule project and also some public relations campaigns for us to make sure the citizens are educated. And then lastly, we do have 5 open full-time positions right now. So we're looking at filling code enforcement, we have a water position, streets, a city engineer position, and then the 1 police officer position that we're still looking to, or we filled but hasn't started yet.
Okay. Good to know.
Okay. Our city manager, do you want us to update us on anything else we need to talk about in our next council meeting?
Just really want to express appreciation for the last 10 days have been pretty crazy, as you guys are all aware. I'm starting to get old. Okay, I've been doing this 20 years now. Those last 10 days were probably about as tough as it's gotten as far as the intensity of what was going on and the amount of time and effort that was going into that. Our next meeting on October 6th, I'd like to recognize some of the employees that
Yes.
stepped up at this time. So we're going to have that on a work session. We're going to invite these employees in and share what they did. And there's more than a few. Now, we had a lot of employees that went above and beyond, but we had some that were really engrossed from like
Minute one.
the start one to when this thing was resolved on both the fire and on the boil or the E. coli issue. So we want to make sure that they're appropriately recognized. I do want to give a couple examples just right now of what we have for our employees. So Saturday night, once it came out that the rec center was going to be the designated shelter, Tyler, of course, came out to help open the building and get that going. But once the word was out, he started getting texts from employees saying, do you need me to show up? Do you need me to come and help? So a lot of our part-time staff saw what was going on and volunteered to come and help us out. I also received a text from Marty on Saturday night asking what he could do to help after everything that had went on.
Well, he might not have been in his right mind at that time.
He was on
so-
drugs.
Yeah,
Marty had been on a track hole all day.
that went a long way.
And I think he was getting ready to take some ibuprofen and call it a night. And those were a couple, I mean, Tina texted and others texted on Saturday night saying, what can we do to help? Do you need me? You know, as far as those things are rolling out. So the employees and those that provide the services for our city are engaged and they care. They care about what we do. And those are just a couple of examples of that. So we'll want to do something a little bit more formal on October 6th in regards to that, and that will be on our agenda. We do have a couple more items. I don't think there's anything of super consequence that we need to go over tonight. We do have 3 weeks in between meetings due to 5 Tuesdays in the month of October. We do have a list of things. Daniel and Tina and I are meeting tomorrow to start putting on some of the work regarding our joint meeting with the Planning Commission and starting to formulate a plan for that we can get in front of you. Daniel and I are meeting with Test Out tomorrow to get a little more specific about what needs to happen on Main Street there with them. We have code enforcement interviews, it's been mentioned. We do have our CARES money, so we have the CARE recreation tax, which is different than the CARES money, which is the federal COVID money. We had set up a committee to talk about some of that. That meeting got canceled last week due to everything going on. So we have Brent, Todd, and the mayor that are on that committee along with some staff. So I'll be reaching out to you here in the next couple of days to get that meeting back on the calendar.
And for what?
Is the COVID money?
Oh, the COVID, gotcha, okay.
Yes, we have $2.7 million. We want to make sure it's accounted for. We want to make sure, right now it's just been me and Tina and Denise, and I want to open that circle a little bit so we have a lot of people that have an understanding of what's happening. Not only that, because of the interpretation of rules and audits and what's going to happen eventually, we want to make sure we have a backup plan in case something that we spend money on that we think is COVID related eventually, if it gets rejected 2 years down the road, we want to make sure we have a backup on the funding of that. Those are the types of things we're going to work with this committee on so everybody has an understanding of what's going on. So other than that, we just executive session after this.
Anybody got anything else for Scott?
Scott's been amazing.
Yeah, thank you,
Yes.
Scott.
The past 10
Thanks,
days, he's updated all of us individually and collectively. And,
In person.
It's been very
in the phone,
appreciated.
Yeah. Mhm.
So, Councilman Jensen, what do you have anything, where's your list tonight?
I have a few things. No, I just wanted to say thank you again. Last 10 days have been crazy, right? And we all get phone calls, text, and neighbors asking. And so just thank you again to the city staff for the tremendous work and the updates that we get. It means a lot. And so moving forward, we had a great golf tournament. And so
Great event.
I think.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
I'm sure we won.
I'm sure you didn't. But it was good. And so one of the things, before I get to that, is this Friday we have our last food truck concert in the park at our downtown park, food trucks will start arriving about 5, and you can start coming down the park then. Concert starts at 6:30. with Hartley Road.
Yes?
Hartley Road, great band. They played a couple weeks ago in Linden and did a tremendous job. Linden didn't come out very good, though. I know they're listening, but they did not show like we show.
We will show.
We will
Have you
show.
posted that on the chamber site yet?
It's, I think we all received an email today with Bailey sent it
The
out.
flyer?
So the flyer's there, so you can share away. Don't share the flyer until later tonight. I'm having her add another new sponsor that just
Oh, okay.
joined. So Ace Recycling, Central Bank, and Big D now.
About
Wow.
5 or 6 food trucks.
We're up to 8 trucks, and we have a ninth
Well
asking to
done.
come in.
Fun
We might have a
night.
fight break out between 2 corn dog trucks. I'm not sure.
Let it happen.
Let it happen.
Let it be.
And get out your cell
Watch 'em go
phone.
down.
Chief Roberts will be there.
Yep. The last ad is actually a pizza truck. So I think they were at the Linden site. He's brand new. He has a wood burning stove on the back of his truck.
Oh, wow.
It's the thing. It's pretty cool, pretty good. So anyway, that's happening. And then the next day is we have a ribbon cutting, and these guys were at our golf tournament and we gave away a couple of their longboards. And it's
Okay, Ghost Longboards.
Ghost
My
longboards.
son was telling me about them.
Yeah,
So
they're
good.
awesome. They started in a little garage in Cedar Hills over here.
Mm-hmm.
Wife kicked husband out of garage, so they bought warehouse location here in PG. They're doing about over 3,000 boards a month, and these are the poly or the clear boards that they're shaping and customizing to
And
people.
they're etched. They're beautiful.
It's they gave away some pretty expensive ones at the golf
Cool.
tournament.
I did,
I
and
mean,
I
they were
was
like
so
$300
mad.
plus dollars.
You
$400.
didn't get one.
I didn't get one.
That's
So
awesome.
they're having their ribbon cutting on Saturday, this coming Saturday, from 10 to 2, but the ribbon cutting will be right at 10. So you don't have to sit there all day, but they're going to be having prizes, food for those 4 hours.
What time on Saturday did you say, Eric?
What's that?
What time on Saturday?
10 o'clock.
Okay.
So, what's that? So the address is ready, 844, we'll send this out, I think she sent this out. So 844 South, 800 West, Suite 209. It's just past Public Works down probably 2 blocks.
On that right hand,
On the left-hand side by the school.
Oh, I was thinking the other side.
Yeah, they have, you have that row of commercial
that's
buildings.
right.
right there.
Warehouses there.
Awesome.
They're always kind of hidden, you never realize
Yeah.
they're hidden back in there. So as soon as you pull in, go about 4 or 5 doors down, and that's where they'll be.
Okay.
So they're excited, they were excited to be part of the golf tournament, part of the chamber and everything, but they're excited to give away some longboards,
Okay.
so, okay, that's it.
Well
Thanks,
done.
Eric. Brett, do you have anything else to add?
No, just like to second what Eric said. We appreciate all the great work. Marty, you look like you need to take a week off. Maybe Denise can give you her Hawaii
Fly miles.
timeshare. She has. And fire department, wonderful. I was up there Sunday evening, and there were 5 planes, fixed wing planes, in the air at the same time. The big KC-135, a little smaller one, and two engines and a single plane, all flying at the same time, and two helicopters. And my wife, I said, maybe we're going to see an accident here, but it was amazing, and you guys do great work. Good.
Just a quick input, I know one of the pilots in the smaller ones. He is behind the pilot, and he's on 6, I think it was like 6 different radio channels or something, coordinating and listening to
Yes.
coordination.
There was one that was kind of circling around and
Yeah.
wasn't dropping anything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Thought that was the guy, but it was amazing, and obviously it looks from our side that there is no fire up there, so we're going to play like that 35% is really 100. But great work, and the police department. It's good to have those exciting experiences, Chief, once in a while. I appreciate all that you guys do. Thank you.
So at least the G's still white. I mean, Forest Service called me Sunday morning and says, Mayor, we can't guarantee, but don't be surprised if the G turns red.
Yes.
And I says, well, that'll make American Fork really happy.
They've been trying to do that for years.
But anyway, they were trying to make sure they didn't drop
They
it
got
off.
very close to
They
it.
did, they did.
Did.
Diana.
All right, just a couple of things. I'll save an emotional one to the end. By the way, I would just like to announce that I won closest to the pin in the chamber. And Chick-fil-A, when I got home and opened that up, I need to thank them, you need to thank them. That was just an amazing.
It's Vern. Vern is a stud.
I
He's a
love
good guy.
Vern. So sweet.
And you know what you did? You beat a lot of really good golfers.
Yes,
A lot.
and that was, oh, yes. I beat a lot of really good golfers. That was very surprising. Okay, just about the week. I'm just very, very grateful. I am going to get emotional, and that's okay. I do know, I want to just state this, that the boys in Oregon are very sad because this is what they train for, this is what they live for. They're very grateful to be protecting Butte something, what was it? And and they're doing what they're doing a wonderful thing there. They're protecting structure. We do understand. We visited with some of the federal boys that Pleasant Grove. They said Pleasant Grove did it perfectly, and it was fun to listen to the coordination of. And I could hear Waddy, and you could hear him, calling these guys over. We had engines 51, 31. It was so fun to listen to the coordination of that whole event. But they protected our structures, and that was the job. And in fact, I think there was a couple of times when it jumped over that road, and everybody went into action, and then they just kept moving north as it kept going. So here's my emotional part. I am a Grovian, and that G means something to me. And so it was 2 a.m., went into the house, and I just didn't think that it was gonna, how could it survive? So, of course, at 6 a.m., I go running out into the street, and there's my street lined with citizens who have run out in their bathrobes to check to see if the G was okay. So it does mean something to this town, and to watch people protect it like that all night long. I think it was 12 hours from 8 to 8. Those guys were on the mountain protecting our town, and I'm grateful for what everybody does. Marty's boys were protecting our town, protecting the citizens in it, and it's what we do, and I'm just so grateful. Anyway.
Thank you.
One of the benefits of serving on the council is to see the back end that most residents never see. And I echo, everything that's been said, but we do live in an amazing city with amazing employees that have had killer 10 days, killer 10 days. And they need to know of our appreciation. They need to know of our thanks. It's heartfelt. It's interesting that the fire was on G Mountain, and I know that's not the appropriate name, but that's the name it'll always be to me.
Yep.
And how many citizens were endeared to that G and hoping that it survived, and was glad that it did survive. So just to everybody, all of the employees, either here or on video or just at home sleeping, thank you for all your work.
So I've lived here my entire life, 29 years, and there's never been a fire that bad, ever. And since my time on the council, there's never been, I don't think we've had E. coli. We haven't had the fire. We haven't had a cougar in someone's yard. There's been cougars, but not like it. It's been one thing after another. Or COVID. We never had a high school just everything. Since my time since I lived here. So it's been, it's for you guys, it's been a lot more, harder than it has been for me as a council member, but I just appreciate as a resident and council member, my home is right just off of 200 South. And so I have a beautiful view of the G from my back porch. And that was bad on Friday night, and that was scary. So just appreciate, I mean, I'm just so grateful you saved the G, you saved, I mean, the family from a cougar, you saved, we're back in session at school. I mean, we're just doing everything we can. I know everyone's trying their best and everyone's exhausted. But more importantly, I mean, yes, I'm a council member, but more importantly as a mom and wife and resident of Pleasant Grove and just someone who has a family here, just thank you, because that was, and you know what, there might be some more things to come, knock on wood, we hope that there isn't, but I think after what we've been through, we're pretty much prepared for, I don't even know what could come our way, chlorine. We've kind of been through the gamut over the past even year, but I think we're ready. And we have a great team here with the staff and mayor and council that I know that we can power through and you know, these difficult situations. And so just, yeah, thank you. It's just full of gratitude, and I don't know what else to say. And we found our dog. Our dog went also missing on Friday night. So you saved the dog. I'm just gonna say you saved her dog. So no, that was a rough weekend and rough year, 2020 in general.
It's not over.
Rear, Todd. Like it was ending on a good
So
note.
it's gonna go.
We gotta get it done. We gotta get this year over.
We're gonna get it over. We're gonna make it. So thank you.
You know, I just need to comment on our public safety people and the job they do here 40-plus years ago when I joined the Pleasant Grove Fire Department. It was a different, it was kind of, after that, we started doing more training and federal mandates came, and I'll tell you, it was pretty scary back in my early days because it was just everybody was freelancing. And it was, but to see how organized they are and how well they're trained and are, it's just amazing to me. And I know a few years back, in fact, when the election cycle was going on, there was a lot of criticism, says, well, why do we need a full-time department? We need to go back to volunteers. We can't go back to volunteers. There's no way we can give our community the level of service that we give them, and is what is expected. And just like tonight on our budget amendment there, we did come up with the money for the paramedic training, and we'll be asked to do more for our public safety in the years to come, the months to come, to get it where we need to have it. And I want our public safety people to know we're 100% behind you, and we're working on that. And it may have some hard decisions with the council going forward on the way we do taxes and stuff. But we just need to bite the bullet and make sure our guys are taken care of, and we retain the best ones.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's we got the right people on the bus. We just continue to keep inviting the right people to ride on the bus with us. But I'm just proud of them. It was just that house fire. You know, it was man, that was hot. I pulled up the same time the first engine did, the ladder truck, and boy, that was just really cooking. I don't know how it got. I think maybe Kathy was over there fanning it or something. It was like somebody had turned a blowtorch in that garage, and I just couldn't.
Just explosion,
Yeah.
hot.
It's hot. But anyway, but thank you, and thanks the council and your support.
So will you directors please make sure that that gets back to your team? I'm always afraid that we say things, but that it just doesn't get back. So please.
Everybody nod.
Everybody nod. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, one thing I wanted to add is a resident sent me a picture, and I'm gonna post it, but we should show it here too. And she took a picture through binoculars. I thought it was an app. Did you see this?
Yes.
She took a picture through binoculars, and it was of I'm assuming wildland firefighter, because he had green pants. You could barely see him, but green pants and a yellow shirt, and he was standing at the bottom of the G. And that pretty much summed up.
It was with a spotting scope, probably.
It was,
Yeah, it was.
and he was just there in the center at the bottom of the G, and that kind of summed up the
Do
entire.
you have that?
Mhm.
You send that to us.
Yeah, I will.
I'd love that.
It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I think that concludes all of our business, except we do need to adjourn to a closed meeting to discuss pending or reasonably imminent litigation. And so with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn to closed session, after which we will reconvene back in, but after we reconvene, no action will be taken further this evening on any votes or whatever. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Jensen, second by Councilmember Bullock to adjourn to closed session.